All right, so before we get started into everything about the class, I was just going to have you write some stuff about yourself. So put your name on there, answer all these questions, and then you'll turn it into me, and then I can kind of, read over it, know about you. I'm going to shut this door. Thanks. All right, so I always like to start the semester with something else silly, a little icebreaker. So this one's called Find Someone Who. Get to know each other a little bit. And the way this one works is everybody is going to stand up, walk around, find a person to talk to, and you're trying to fill in these boxes with a different person's name for each box. So for example, finding someone that has the same pets as you. I'll walk around. Maybe I'll say, Pedro, do you have a rabbit like I do? He'll say no. I'll go find somebody else. I might be looking for a while. And you're trying to get all these filled in with a different name, basically. So shouldn't be too hard. All right, so before we get started, I want everybody to think about one non-school related thing that they are good at. You don't have to say it, just think about it. Just put it in your head. All right, does everybody have something? So I want you to tell me with your clickers over there. So there should be little white remote clicker things. You can push any button to turn them on. I want to know how you became good at it. Just turn on, push A, B, C, or D, and we should see those responses. Oh, you push the any key. All right, so we've got 62% C, 21% D, and a few A's and B's there. So that means most people became good at whatever they're good at by practicing it or by watching someone do it. Now it's interesting, being good at science, critical thinking, knowing biology is a skill like anything else. So not sure exactly why, when you think of science, you think of someone just lecturing at you and you writing down notes, because that's not how you learn to do pretty much anything. So the way I have the class set up is you're more time to practice, discuss, actually get your brain engaged with it. It's like really how to play the piano. You're not going to read a 400-page book about playing the piano before you touch a piano, right? You're going to sit down, maybe read a little bit, practice it, have someone give you feedback. So in order to do that, basically I have less lectures, so there is lecture time, but it's broken up with active learning. So these little clicker things or remote controls that you just used, I'll use those to get discussion started or to see if you're kind of getting what we're talking about. So like talk to you about, how muscles work for a few minutes and then ask you a few questions with the clickers to see if you're getting it. And if you're not, then we can spend more time on it, have you talk in your group about it, really give your brain a chance to sort of interact with whatever we're learning. Also, there's a lot of sort of group assignments, pair work, just interactive things to get you practicing. We do have some really cool fluorescent markers in those drawers around somewhere, which you can look for them, but we'll find them later too. And we use them to draw on the desks. So like diagram how muscles work or draw a concept map. They're all over the group, so we get to use those for stuff. That's really fun. Of course, I know everyone's kind of concerned already. What's a negative experience you've had working in a group? None of our group work or pair work is graded in here, so you don't really have to worry if one person's slacking off. They're just hurting themselves because then they're not really learning what you're working on. So it's just a chance to practice, and it's really up to you if you're going to engage or not. Obviously, some people are shy, so if someone's just not talking, don't just ignore them. Say, like, what are you thinking? Or, Also can get kind of personality conflicts, you get tired of certain people, we do switch the groups every unit. So you'll have like all new people in your group starting next, like in a couple weeks. Which will be hard because most of the time people get used to their group and then we make them change and they think it's going to be the end of the world. And then they forget that the first day they didn't know these people either. So I've tried never changing them. That didn't really work. I tried changing like every week. That seemed to be too often. So it seems like every unit seems to be a good kind of amount of time to spend with a group. Great. So basically what I think is the more time you're actually discussing and using your brain and thinking, basically doing something, the more you're going to learn from it. Just listening and writing notes doesn't really work so well. So I'm sure you've had an experience like you're in class, you write all these notes, and then you go home to study and you realize you don't really know anything. I mean, that was at least my experience. Like, yeah, I wrote it down, but I don't know what it means. I just wrote it down. And they've studied this a lot because obviously you can do scientific studies on how people learn best. And this one's cool because it's from Science. It's the best journal, basically. And then it was done in Boulder for the most part. So they took 700 students in a sophomore level bio class, split them into two groups. You take one group and they get just the normal straight, how most of the classes were taught. Professor lectures at them, they take notes, they take tests, like you'd sort of imagine. And then they took the other half and they had class with just graduate students, and it was all active. So they did clicker questions, they did activities, and then all 700, both groups took the same test, and then they kind of graphed the results. And you could see those dark bars are the active learning, and so the highest bar on that one was a score of 11, and you could see basically the distribution for the active learning is way higher. They did way, way better on the same test than the traditional kind of lecture approach. So it's not just me coming up with this. This is basically what scientific research tells us about how people learn the best. So in order to have time to do active learning, to work on harder stuff, the only way that can work is if you actually know something when you come in. And so instead of just telling you, read the chapter and know it, that doesn't really tell you what to know. Instead, I have the study guide for you. So you only have to know the stuff in bold before you come to class. This should be the easier things. Definitions of words, list a few things. And you should be able to get all those answers from your textbook reasonably easily. Just skim through it, scan through the chapter, find the words, make sure you actually know it. That way, when you come to class, you already know something, and we can spend our class time on hard stuff. You don't need me to tell you what the definitions of words are. But what you might need help with is, explain the process of negative feedback and positive feedback. That's quite a bit more complicated. So I'd rather us do that in class than send you home to do the hard stuff. So easy stuff at home before class, harder stuff in class. It's kind of the procedure. If you don't have your book yet, I'm going to post chapter 1 PDF of the chapter on D2L. Actually 1 and 3. 1 and 3 will be posted. Because I know, very common to have your book yet. And so basically the typical class day, you'll be at home, you'll be answering these bold things, making note cards, however works for you. And come in, maybe when you're at home, you were really confused by a couple words. So there's always time at the beginning. Hey, Mr. H, can we go over what supine means? We'll go over it. So you can always ask any questions you want before we take the reading quiz. And so our reading quiz is just based on those bold things. As just yes, you did it. It's kind of to more or less force you to actually do it. For most people, those reading quizzes help their grade, because if you're studying at home, they're pretty easy. And it's worth a whole exam altogether. So can really bring up your grade for sure. All right, so let me go over a few common questions. And then if there's still questions, you can ask me then. All right, so point distribution, we've got 5% for pre-lab quizzes. Those are going to be on D2L. That's your only kind of D2L quiz you'll have. And they're going to be before every lab on Sunday nights. And the way those work, is they're no time limit, open note, just to get you to read over the lab and think about it a little bit. So a couple multiple choice, a couple short answers. Shouldn't take more than maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most. Because I found if I don't have anything like that, people come into lab and they have no idea what we're going to do. And then we spend the first 45 minutes of lab reading over the lab and figuring out what to do instead of doing something. So that's those. Lab practicals, you'll get a study guide for those. There is 4, shouldn't say 3 up there, there's 4 of those. And basically it's going to test what you've learned from lab. So if we're dissecting an eyeball and I tell you in lab you need to know these 8 structures in the eyeball, then you come for a lab practical, there'll be pins in there. What are these structures in the eyeball? Things like that, basically. And there'll be a study guide. I'll post one for that, for the lab practicals. So you know after every lab or before you leave, I need to make sure I know these things. Lab participation, that's basically being here and turning in the review sheets. You get 85% for turning it in, and then an extra 15% depending on how many things you get right on here. Obviously, I'm not going to grade every question, but I'm not going to tell you which ones I'm going to grade.
For sure, if you turn it in, you get 85.
Yeah, and that's very rare that, yeah, which would be pretty unlikely. That's like if you weren't trying at all. Most of the time, people are getting 96s, 98s. And obviously, you lose some points if you're not here for lab. And if you miss more than 4 labs, you don't pass the class. So we only meet 14 times for lab. So you need to at least be here for 10 of those. And we got our reading quizzes. That's 10%, 4 exams, 40, and then the final. The final is cumulative, so it's over all the chapters, but you'll get a study guide for it. So basically on the final, I have final exam study guide. There'll be 2 items from chapter 1 or 3 items from chapter 1. So save your study guides because you'll need them for the final. Don't throw them away or something. You'll definitely want to keep those. No food in here. There's a lot of cat juice and eyeball juice all over. If you really want to eat, I would not recommend it, so don't bring any food in here. And we don't want sticky lab benches. That's just not nice for anybody. So just water in here. And don't sit on your phone the whole time. That's not helping you learn. If you're trying to work with someone and they're just staring at their phone, that's pretty annoying. So bring your phone. If you have an emergency, just go out, use your phone, talk to whoever, check your texts. That's fine. Just don't do it in here. Right? If you're going to miss an exam because you're sick, tell me beforehand. Don't just show up a week later and ask to take it, because that's not going to work. And you can only do that once. So if you've got a little sniffly cold, you should probably still come take your exam. We can't just have you taking all your exams late, because that's not really fair to everybody else. You get a week extra to study every exam. So that's why we have that one. All right. What the exams consist of, about 70 points of multiple choice on a Scantron, and then 30 points of kind of short answer essay questions. And very commonly, those essay questions, some of them could be verbatim from the study guide. So you could very possibly have a question that says, describe the 3 components in the feedback system, which is on your study guide for I. So I look at this as almost like you get some questions in advance that you'll be tested on. What's that? Everyone always asks about extra credit. I do have an extra credit opportunity. Next week I'll have a sign-up sheet for it. And basically what this is, it's a fun way for all of us to hear about something new and interesting that's happening about the body, diseases, something in the news. So maybe you're watching CNN and they have a cool show about heart disease and how it's changing, or something about babies' development. Anything like that, so you can find it on New York Times website, CNN, Google News under the science section. It doesn't matter to me, as long as it's about the body somehow, you can use it. And there's a little worksheet with questions to help you summarize it. It'll be on D2L. You answer it, and then you'll just stand up here and present for 4 minutes. Just all you would have to do is read what you wrote. You don't have a PowerPoint, you don't have to draw on the board. You'd be surprised how fast 4 minutes goes when you're standing in front of people. It's like no time at all. So if you do it, you get a point in your final grade. It's not like you have to do a great job and I'm gonna give you half a point or something. If you do it, you get a point on your grade. So if you end up with 79, now you're gonna have an 80 at the end. If you have an 89, now you have a 90. If you have 100, now you have 101.
Is there a limit to how many times you can do that?
Yeah, you can only do it once.
Okay.
And we'll have a sign-up sheet, because obviously, what do you think is going to happen? Everybody's going to wait till the last day, and we can't spend the whole last class day on extra credit presentations. So I'll bring a sign-up sheet, pass it around, sign up for a day, and if you decide you don't want to do it, you just don't do it. But you have that time reserved for you. You may have to remind me on Tuesday to pass that out, or Monday. I guess we're going to do it on Monday. School lab. All right, so how to succeed? What do students who succeed, what are they doing? They're definitely preparing for class by using the study guide. So they've got their study guide, skimming through the chapter, finding the answers to this. And very importantly, they're not just writing down verbatim what's in the book. So for your brain to understand something, it has to be in your own words. Otherwise, your brain doesn't really know what those words mean. You'll have to do it at some point, so you're much better off just starting that way before class. So if you look up the definition of a word, in the back of the book or in the chapter, and it's 3 sentences long, don't write 3 sentences on here and try to memorize it. Every definition, you should really be able to get it down to 4 or 5 words if you know what the word means. So take it easy on yourself. Simplify everything at the beginning. Don't try to make it hard and then simplify it the day before the test, because that doesn't work. So you'll be really surprised. Like if you look at, because I've seen lots of people's study guides and they come in for help, who do you think has more written? The students who are getting A's or the ones that are struggling? It's the ones that are struggling. So the best students are thinking about it, simplifying it for themselves. So all they have to remember is like 5 words for a definition. Someone who's struggling, they're trying to memorize 3 sentences for every word. And then they get frustrated and think they're dumb or something. It's just, you're not. It's just how much you're trying to remember and figure out. So start with that at home, and then after class, before you wait too long, like for example, Thursday night after class, look at the non-bold things on here and try to answer them in your own words. We will have gone over them in class with activities, clicker questions. And so that way, hopefully by the time you go to study for your exam, you already know most of it. You're not trying to learn it all like the day before. So just, because that's how your brain works. It works in little chunks. It needs to do a little bit this day, a little bit this day, because it can't hold all that info. And I highly suggest, it's your first bio class. There's tons of student meeting times listed on that syllabus. So Monday through Thursday, you can come to my office and just say, hey, can you look at my study guide and tell me if this is a good amount of stuff? I tell everyone that. Most of the time, no one ever comes, but it's really helpful for you. So definitely take advantage of that. You can also compare with your group and say, like, what did you write for this definition? You should be able to get an idea of what a good answer for those things are. So based on that, what do you think the best answer is if you had something in your study guide that says define mutation? All right, so apparently y'all are listing pretty well already, because I would say A is the right answer there. It's very simple. It defines the word. You're done. And the reason I have this one, if you look up mutation in the back of your book, what definition do you think is there? It might be B. They tend to go on and on. So simplify it. If the book's not helping you, use something else. Just Google the word. Go on Wikipedia. Go on YouTube. Ask somebody. Right, so just to illustrate what good preparation does, a couple semesters ago I graphed each student and I took their reading quiz average, because 5's the best, and then I compared that to how they did on their exams throughout the semester. What does that graph sort of tell you? People who did good on the reading quizzes did well in the exams. And what I take out from that is that the people who are prepared for class, they've got the easy stuff down when they come in. And now when we do the harder things in class, they have a good basis to build on and they can learn that stuff. Whereas, someone who's getting 2s on their reading quizzes, they're not really preparing very well. They're not learning anything before. So they come into class. And then when we start talking about negative feedback, positive feedback, they don't even know what those words mean, so they're totally lost, and they aren't able to learn any of the harder stuff. So then they leave class not knowing anything, or not knowing very much, and they have to learn everything on their own. That's what tends to happen. So being ready for class, knowing those bold things is really the most important thing. All right, so if I'm not scaring you too much, we do actually have fun in here because we get to do little activities like writing questions for each other, drawing all over those tables. For the first chapter, something kind of fun we do is with anatomical positions, is you'll be with your group, you get to come stand up here and do something like this, and the rest of the groups have to decide what movements you made. So like this bone did a flexion at this joint. So try and make it kind of fun. We do have a good time. And we get to dissect some stuff. So for 201, let's see what we got in there. Rats, brains, hearts. Wait, not hearts, that's 202. Rats, brains, eyeballs. Might be a few things I'm forgetting. It's all on the left. You'll be surprised. You'd think you might be like grossed out by dissect. Very few people actually are. We even had 5th graders in here watching us dissect rats and eyeballs, and they just thought it was awesome. All right, so obviously you all have your own things you chose for number 2 there. But the thing is, we're all adults. You know how you can learn and study best. It doesn't mean we always do it. So like sometimes I'll be doing grading tests and I'll have my phone out and I'll have the TV on. And then like 2 hours passes and I've graded like 2 tests or something. So it happens to me too, and I know it happens to you too. But you know what you need to do. You know what works the best. So put those times on your calendar. If you use like a Google Calendar, put it on there. Put in your calendar at home so whoever you live with knows, leave me alone. Leave me alone. That's my time to study. Don't come mess with me. Like, don't try to get me to watch a movie or do something else. And I think that could be a really good way to kind of get started. Make sure you do well. And also that number 3, those tips you would give to someone else, like, you just gave yourself tips. I hear people saying, stay prepared, don't fall behind. everybody knows what they need to do. So it's just a matter of actually doing it. All right, so this last one is just for you to keep. You're not going to be talking about it with anybody. And that's on the back. So what are the biggest things in your life that will make success difficult? And then 5 is, what's your plan for overcoming those things? Alrighty, so don't leave quite yet. Just wanted to kind of leave you with, it's up to you. You have your study guides. You know what you need to know. I'm here to help you at any time. My phone number is on here. You can call it whenever. And also on that syllabus, I'm posted outside my door, are all the times I'm there for you to come ask questions, which is 10 hours a week. You can come in whenever. And if those times don't work, you could make an appointment for some other time too. And so don't get behind and struggle and then feel like you can't ask for help. That's what my job is. So, but if you don't ever ask me for help, I'm not going to come to your house and bother you and tell you you need to study or something. It is college, so it's up to you. You could do it. All I could do is help you towards there.